Everybody. Thank you for joining. We are going to get started just a couple minutes after the hour. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I want to thank those of you who've been waiting patiently for us to get started. And we're going to let people trickle in, but we're just going to get some housekeeping stuff done as we move forward before we get into the thick of this. Today, we're going to be talking about how to lose a client in 10 clicks. We're going to be talking about the most common inbound marketing mistakes that companies make and how to prevent yourself from having those mistakes yourself. If you're not familiar with our movie themes, every webinar this month, this year at BizzyWeb has a specific movie theme. This is based on a movie called How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. So it's a favorite of some of the people we work with. I myself is not as familiar with it, but hopefully I can get the jokes to land just the same. So thanks everybody again for joining us. And if you're not familiar with BizzyWeb, we are a full service digital growth agency based in Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. We have a number of laurels, but the ones on screens are the most important. We are Constant Contact certified. We are a platinum HubSpot solution partner. And we, in addition to that, we have about 9 years worth of all-star awards from Constant Contact. We are Grow with Google, high impact partner, and a number of other things. So our primary focuses are on 3 things: digital marketing, inbound marketing, and web design. These are the things that we use to help grow your company in the best way possible. And today, obviously, is going to be an inbound-centered one. So today, though, however, it's not just me here on the panel today. I do have a special guest star who's joining me as well. So if you are the special guest star, could you please sign in and say hello?
Thank you for that. Hi, everyone. Do you want me just to go ahead and get a quick intro
hi.
here?
Yeah,
All right. Hi.
This is Kelby from HubSpot.
Hi. As Rigby said, my name is Kelby. If you forget during the webinar, it's a mix between Kelly and Shelby. Parents wanted to make my life a little bit more complicated. But I've been at HubSpot for the past a little over 3 years and started out on the sales side, so working with mid-market size companies, bringing them onto HubSpot, analyzing if they were a good fit to start working on inbound for their company. So had a really fun time with that, but wanted to get involved in our solutions partner program, which is where I met BizzyWeb, got to work along with them and many of our other solution partners. So again, they had a big role in bringing on customers and developing that inbound process for them. So got to work with many different companies and partners of all shapes and sizes. Now I currently work on our classroom training team. So normally when not during quarantine, we are traveling throughout all over the world, but I travel through North America, giving classes on our marketing hub fundamentals, so teaching through the tools, but also our sales tools and a sales and marketing and alignment course. Now those are all virtual, so I have been giving all virtual classes over the past few months.
Awesome. So it is HubSpot tradition that when somebody from HubSpot speaks, is they offer two truths and an exaggeration. So we came up with two truths and an exaggeration for Kelby here. The number one is Kelby moved to San Diego and then she left within 4 months. The second one, I didn't maybe write as clearly as I could have. Kelby, the name Kelby is originally from a professional windsurfer in Hawaii. That's where her parents got the name. And third, Kelby's favorite 80s hair band is the Scorpions. So what I'm going to do is launch a poll here and allow you guys, if you could go ahead and in the questions field, list, if you can hear me, just because I want to make sure that everything's running right and carefully. If you could pose a question, what you think the exaggeration is, we will announce it in just a second. So Kelby, you've been doing this for quite a long time, and what are some of the big mistakes that you see people make? We're obviously going to get into the meat of it, but is there what's the one thing you'd like people to take away from today?
I think probably the biggest mistake that I see is companies not creating goals, and not just creating goals, but making sure they're the right type of goals. So we'll talk about this a little bit later,
Yeah,
but creating those SMART goals. I just see people dive in head first. They maybe make somewhat of a goal, but not really. And then they aren't able to measure that success. They aren't able to align their teams. So I'm sure, as many people do, they feel the pressure of sales and marketing not aligning together. And when you don't have those goals, like inbound's not going to work for the marketing team, and the sales team isn't going to trust the marketing team putting inbound in place when there isn't an aligned goal. So I'd probably say that the biggest mistake that I see is not having those SMART goals set. So I'm definitely excited to talk about
awesome.
that section.
So that answer should have come with a big giant spoiler alert, because wow, you hit a lot of the high notes. So
I know.
the answers are in. The majority of people, Kelby, think that number two is the exaggeration.
They think that number two, so that's not true. Number
Correct.
two.
That's not.
That
They say
is
that's not true.
actually true. If you Google Kelby Ano, she is a professional windsurfer. My parents met her in Hawaii, so they didn't just creatively think to put Shelby and Kelly together. It's just how I introduce myself. So that is not an exaggeration. That's true.
Gotcha. So the exaggeration is
It is the that my favorite 80s hair band is the Scorpions. Unfortunately, you're probably going to hate me for this, but I am not even familiar with the Scorpions.
it's okay. That's okay. The reason you got bit by a scorpion though once, right?
I did, yeah, when living in San Diego. That's not why I left, but I was bitten by a scorpion, which is not a common thing at all.
Wow.
But yes, I'm ashamed to admit that I did live in San Diego previously and left after 4 months. But to be fair, I go out there pretty often. Wanted to be a little closer to family. I'm currently located in Nashville, Tennessee, so I work as a
Awesome.
remote employee
Well,
for
that
HubSpot.
moving closer to family is okay, but once it becomes 50 below zero in Minnesota, I'm probably gonna rue that being okay with
I
that. So
know, I know.
let's go ahead and get into the meat of things. I did want, for those of you who are new to inbound or you're just getting started with inbound, I did want to lay out kind of the whole methodology behind inbound. So really, what we consider at BizzyWeb the value of inbound is that it helps you attract the prospects who are looking for help for a particular problem. If we are to sort of blast everything up to a 10,000 foot level, somebody's going to come and want to buy from you because they have a problem that they need solving. Either they need help with a product or a service or something like that. And you can see, as I have on screen here, the journey that they take through the different stages of buying is wildly different, and it's a big monster zigzag line, all of which have marketing points that come into play, but all of those times as well have different needs of content, and that's where the inbound in the inbound philosophy comes into play, because the value is you present them with the right information at the right time. And so if you can do that, you're going to gain more valued customers, the right fit customers who are going to be happier with your products, your services, and how you deliver for them. So did I hit the high notes there, Kelby? Since you're the expert here, I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, no, I think as long as you have the idea of we are no longer, as we move with the trends of today, with the technology, we think about the amount of noise that everybody's getting today, right? So you think about all of the emails that you're probably getting in your personal inbox or whatever your junk inbox is right now, the number of emails, or even your business email. People get all of your different emails. You're getting so much along with ads and commercials and everything. And so how can you actually break through the noise? And that's part of inbound is through awareness and actually attracting people the right way, and then engaging with them and then delighting them through the process so that way that they are recommending you to their other colleagues or other customers.
And the bottom line is inbound marketing really is going to help you find the right people that are a match for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to help you build a higher level of trust and credibility before those people even pick up the phone, because they're going to view you as an expert and view you as a helpful resource before they even decide to engage with you. So
Exactly.
that's kind of why we at BizzyWeb are in work love with inbound, is because it is one of the easiest way. Well, easy is it's one of the most efficient ways to get from nobody knowing you to having a customer. So that's why we like it, and that's why we're proud to have HubSpot as part of our bag of tools that we roll out. But obviously the inbound methodology is great. So today what we're going to do is we're going to be talking a little bit about how does one get started with inbound. I'm going to go over that. I'm going to purposely talk about it in a way that is sort of fumbling along, because that's how a lot of times companies do it. And then we'll lay out the mistakes, and then those are the mistakes according to HubSpot, and then how best we can fix it. So fortunately, we have one of the better people in the world, Kelby, to help us make sure that we don't screw up too badly. So okay, so we've decided that we're going to start with inbound. Or somebody from our C-level has said, okay, I went to a seminar and I heard this inbound thing. I want you to get started. So, oh boy, that's awesome. How exactly are we going to do that? So we found out about inbound through some research, and now becomes the operative question becomes, how do I do this, and how do I start? And where do I start? And what if I make a mistake? And what if the pain of doing this is greater than the pain of not doing it? And that's really one of the more operative things we want to talk about today is, if I make a mistake, how is the easiest way that I can fix it? And if I have a mistake that's coming up or avoidable, is that something that it makes not doing inbound a worthwhile endeavor? And the answer is, I think, is no, but we'll get into the nuts and bolts of that. So as I said, this is going to be really heavy on the how to lose a guy in 10 days clicks. I want to apologize ahead of time that I did have to watch the movie so I could get all the references. So
Don't worry, it's one of my favorites, so I'll be your backup.
okay, perfect. Yeah, my encyclopedic knowledge of all things Kate Hudson is pretty low. So if you're going to start inbound, here are a couple of things to keep in mind. Is number one, know your company goals, and really what does your company really need from a growth perspective, not only from a marketing perspective, but also a sales perspective. And then you want to create those company goals and make sure that your strategy and your marketing goals align with them. So if you have a disproportionate amount of goals that your marketing can't catch up to, well, it's probably a good time to start over. Create some buyer personas. And if you're not familiar with those are a fictional representation of what a good fit buyer is for you. It's not just a job title. It's demographic information, it's wants, it's fears, it's knowledge of where those people are finding their information and finding out what their frustrations are. Because if you truly have a good understanding of representation of somebody, you're able to really understand better of how to talk to them in a way that is going to be listened to. Next, you want to understand your buyer's journey. You want to make sure that you have a good understanding of the steps that your buyers have taken in order to replicate that into another layer of buyer's journey as well. So Then you want to decide on your campaigns, and what are those campaigns doing? Well, they should help you reach your ultimate goals. So once you figure out what those campaigns are, then you need to create the content for the campaigns. So there are 6 things, all of which seem really easy, but are actually kind of hard to fill in. And there's a lot of open-ended questions that go into really choosing the right path for your organization. And then once you do that, obviously the next step is you need to measure to see how close you came to achieving your goal, analyze whether or not you did or not, and tweak just to get a little bit better and get a little bit closer. So, okay, so now that you've done all that, great. Now you start working on your first campaign. Isn't that awesome? You think, oh, great. All of these people are already falling in love with me. This is going to be awesome. And you know what the sales department says, Kelby? They are immediately complaining about all of the leads. And management is complaining because they want it done all at once. So they are saying, I'm going to make you wish you were dead. This is what we as marketers have to deal with. It's an unfortunate split there, but the good news is there's a way out. And if you try and do all of your campaigns for the year at the same time, does mean that you're gonna have to turn around and tweak all at once. So if this is pretty representative of what it's like to be a marketer, and unfortunately it's pretty representative of what sales is, and that's something that never happens at BizzyWeb. Salespeople never complain about the quality of leads, and I imagine if anybody from the office can hear me, they're silently laughing at this when I say that. So, but at the end of the day, all's fair in love and war. The goal is to get the right people in by any means necessary that is appropriate, and get them to your sales team, and get your sales team to be able to work those leads. So then at the end of the year, you're going to spend a month going over the analysis and kicking yourself for all the things that you could have done a little differently. You went too fast. You could have maybe slowed down, did more analysis. The sales, they couldn't get as good leads as you wanted, and management didn't give you as much budget as you wanted. Well, this is sort of and man, I'm getting text messages, Kelby, from people in my office who are listening. They're saying, no, we're not silently laughing. So yeah, thanks for that, guys. Appreciate it.
Well,
So,
hey, you gotta make money in commission. I totally get it from the sales
right,
side too.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, you're all working towards the same goal. You
right.
want to improve ROI.
Exactly. So this is a cycle that sort of continues over and over and over again. And so one of the great goals about a company that starts becoming an inbound based company is a lot of this clash between sales and marketing tends to go away, because you tend to have much more of a symbiotic relationship, and one good thing leads to the other, which leads to the other. So how can we exactly break that cycle? It's through inbound and through working together. As you said, Kelby, it's working as a team and realizing we're all in it together. So we asked Kelby to come up with the 10 top mistakes that she has seen at her years at HubSpot, and seen how she has been able to solve some of those problems. So let's start with the first mistake. I signed up for HubSpot. I'm going to do everything at once. I'm going to set up all these campaigns. I'm going to set up all these things. I'm going to push it all out, and it's going to be great. Right, Kelby? No? Oh man. Okay. Well, shoot. How do I not make that mistake of doing everything at once?
Yeah, so this is a very common challenge here. And I do want to say, just as a caveat, is that a lot of these do come from a HubSpot blog that we have published too. But I did take the time to talk to some of our own HubSpot consultants. So it's a mix between a blog and some feedback from consultants and my own experience. So can't take all the credit here. So just so everyone knows. But yes, this is a big problem that I see new customers coming into, usually they purchase HubSpot because they want to start utilizing inbound marketing. They probably, like you said, I think in the beginning, they drank some type of marketing inbound Kool-Aid. They've done some research, or management told them, hey, this is the best new thing. We need to start putting it in place. So we rush to start fixing everything at once. And then we're not prioritizing anything. We're not creating goals. Or not figuring out which of our channels are actually performing best. So what I would recommend, instead of just, which is great, I love the passion, and it's going to take that, because inbound does take work. It's going to give you great results, but it's not an easy process. So you need to make sure that you're prioritizing in the beginning. So some ways that you can do that is taking a look at your channels. It may depend on what types of systems you're using for reporting, but whether it's Google Analytics, if you're already using HubSpot, or any other CRM or reporting system, take a look at what channels are performing best. Or even talk to your sales team. If you really don't have any type of reporting, ask your sales team where are those leads coming from, how are they hearing about us? And then which channels are performing the worst? Another area that I'd recommend taking a look at is, if you're really unsure of how to answer these questions, is we actually have a 100 days of creating your inbound marketing plan, is go back and educating yourself on inbound. So kind of like what you were talking about in the beginning, Trigby, is just even looking at, there's a state of inbound marketing report I would recommend looking at, or even going into certifications. HubSpot has hundreds of certifications that you can take, but even just a basic inbound methodology certification is a good place to start if you're really unable to prioritize or answer some of these questions of which channels are performing best or worst.
Yeah, so there's two things I want to mention. Number one is Kelby's mentioned a couple of different things that you should be able to find on the HubSpot website. But after this event today, you will get an email from me. Some of these things won't be included, but if there's something that's a particular interest of you, just reply back to the email that gets sent out, and I'll be more than happy to track that down and work with you to try and find it. So Kelby, I did want to ask you one thing. Why is it important? And obviously, I think it's pretty self-evident why knowing what channels are performing the best is a good idea to know. But what's the value in knowing which ones are performing the worst?
Yeah, I think it's important to see, why were those channels performing so poorly. So if we were to look at, okay, our social media, so in this example, our social media our engagement is pretty good, but we have a really high bounce rate. That's a problem. That's something that we should put more priority on. Luckily, if you have good engagement somewhere else, we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Don't mean to keep spoiling things, but we can do things like content audits and do quick fixes for those. So
Okay.
where are those big pain points that are going to take a little bit more time and prioritization?
Got it. Okay. So, all right. So that's the first mistake. Well, let's talk about goals. I mean, I really want
Mhm.
to double BizzyWeb's business in by the end of June, and that would really make me happy, especially because I'm the head of sales. But
Mm.
that's not really realistic. Uh, but it's important that I also let everybody know what those are. So if I'm going to create a goal, I'm going to create a big, hairy, audacious goal that it's going to be something that everybody's going to strive to. Everybody's going to be all in on, and then everybody's just going to have to catch up to that goal and work harder. Right? Right?
Well, that
Right,
would be
Kel?
that would be poor alignment.
Oh, okay. Well, what? Okay. So what should I do instead?
So I think that's a great, very, very broad goal that you have in mind, that you want to double busy web sales.
Yeah.
However, I would counteract that with, how can we make that a SMART goal? So I would start off by, so again, the SMART represents specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So I would start off with, how can we make that a more specific goal? So, what are specific metrics? I'm going to mention alignment a lot, because I think it's one of the biggest problems when creating goals. And with our marketing and sales team, you already brought this up in the beginning, which is perfect. If we don't if we're not very clear with our goals, we're not helping our two teams be aligned. If, the marketing team might be clear on, for example, let's say that we want to create a goal to increase our number of leads by 20%. Well, that's great. But what is a lead? Have we defined that as a company? Does the marketing team know what a lead is? And does the sales team know what a lead is? And where's that 20% coming from? So we need some very specific metrics.
So that kind of gets into what I generally refer to as my mom problem. So if we get hired at BizzyWeb to get you more leads, Kelby, and I give you my mom's name, did I do my job? Well, on the one hand, yeah, because you got a lead. On the other hand, my mother is a 73-year-old retired college professor, so she's probably not going to be a good fit lead for you. So it's more than just
Exactly.
names. It's more than garbage. It has to be good fits, and that's a great point that you mentioned about really defining what is a good lead.
Right. And anytime you create a goal, whether it's mentioning a lead or a number, it's really important to be as specific as possible, because these goals, or even if you're turning them into like service level agreements, so if we're creating SLAs here, the whole point of those is to create alignment and be as clear as possible, so we're all working towards that same goal. So the specific part is very important, and that goes right into being measurable. So I mentioned, if the goal is to increase 20% more leads, again, we're going back to, where does that number come from? I would recommend, instead of using percentages, using actual hard numbers, so we have a good understanding of those too. And yes, we can use percentages, but just being very clear, highlighting what report that came from. If you have a shared doc, kind of like this one over on the right, how can we link back to specific reports and show that number?
Yeah, this was donated by the BusyWeb marketing team, and so as you can see in the chart there, there's a lot of goals that go into an overall higher level goal
Mhm.
of increase in revenue. So even something on the strengthening content front, there are a half a dozen, actually 7 different goals that they're trying to increase
Right.
and that they're measuring, and that there's a goal, but then there's a stretch goal, and then our team internally measures how they're doing year to date. You can see this is, I think, from the end of April, so they're up just about everything. So
Right. And if we
okay,
were to,
so a good smart goal would be something that's realistic, and it's achievable, and it's timely, but it's specific. So okay, so I get that, but what are some typical company goals from a marketing standpoint? We showed some BusyWeb ones, but there are generally there's a disconnect. So the corporate goals typically look like what I've got on screen now. So things like revenue, things like profitability, things like launching new products, new technologies, new partnerships, stuff like that. How that translates into marketing is the marketing folks have to actually provide, if we're going to get more revenue, well, we need more leads and we need more opportunities to get revenue. So the salespeople need more leads, but they need to be great leads. From a profitability standpoint, we can't just throw more money at the problem. We need to have data-driven marketing. We've got to have new efficiencies. We've got to make sure that we're leveraging all our partners correctly. So there are a lot. What from a goal setting standpoint, the operative thing, I think, if I understand you, Kelby, is that even if we're in one department, everything does have to work together with other departments. So from the corporate standpoint, if the corporate goal is more revenue, the marketing goals have different goals, but they all feed into the one.
right, exactly. When you think about creating a goal or even a service level agreement, which to me, it goes hand in hand, are pretty much goals. We're thinking about how we can align our teams to reach that end goal. And that's why it's so important that they follow that SMART structure. So that way they're specific they're measurable to everyone, they're attainable by the sales and marketing team, they're relevant to both teams, and they're timely as well.
Okay, perfect, awesome. So I'm going to start this inbound thing, but I'm going to just going to completely start from scratch, right? I'm going to not, I have to do everything over. I have to, now that I have this big giant binder of all the things I have to do, that means I have to redo everything. And I have to look at all my sell sheets, all my emails, and start from scratch, right? That's what I need to do.
I would not recommend that
Okay.
because that's quite inefficient. So I love doing this with companies is running through a content audit. It can be quite, again, stressful when you take on the task of completely changing your marketing to inbound, or at least maybe it might not be your full marketing methodology, but it might be part of your process, part of its inbound. Even then, it's still quite a task to take on. So I love running a content audit. So taking a look at what your current materials look like. How can we go ahead and optimize what you already have? So I would recommend creating something like a content checklist. So, what do you already have, and what would you like to have? So, what do you not have right now? And then use something like an audit template where we can establish who created each piece of content, when were they published, so dates, how did they perform, what's the format of that content, is it gated, is there a buyer persona associated? So, mentioning here, mapping out where that piece of content hits in the buyer's journey. So, is this in the attract phase? Are we looking to convert a lot of visitors into leads with this piece of content? Or are we looking to help close a lead? So, is our sales team going to need this piece of content? So, really establishing which part of each of the buyer's journey is important as well to make sure that we have content for each stage.
I think one of the things that generally bothers me about our industry that well, the industry I'm in, I can't really speak for Kelby, is that there are some agencies who come in and say that everything has to be redone and everything, and that's never true
Mhm.
unless it's just really very bad, and nothing is ever really that bad. So most of the companies that we work with, they have a lot of great things to start with, and what our job is as inbound marketers is just to help them either tweak it or supercharge it or present it in a new way. I think especially our marketing team at BizzyWeb does a great job of finding things that a customer already has and figuring out a way to repurpose it or use it in a new way that we can get work done quicker, and we can get more successes done quicker based on the things that the puzzle pieces that a company has already. So
Right, and especially working with like a niche company where they might have, let's say it's like a medical device company or a very specific product that takes a lot of research and writing, we shouldn't have to completely recreate the wheel. We should be able to use that content and just spruce it up a bit, maybe gate it or add some CTAs. So again, just kind of optimizing those pieces of content.
excellent. So okay, so I have a list of keywords that I think are important, and I think those keywords are because they're important to me. I mean, this business is mine. It's why I started I have a passion about it, and so I really know what people want. And so when I directed my SEO person who I had before, I said, here are the keywords that I want. And then obviously content went along with that because I want to support, because it's really important for me to be number one on Google, right? And that's the I have to be number one on Google.
Right.
Yeah. So
Well,
is that a mistake, or is there a different way in which that can be done?
yeah, I think that what you mentioned is that if you're creating a company, if you're, high up in your company, you're probably a thought leader in that industry, but you need to take the time to put yourself in your customer's shoes. So, how can we think about the problems that they're facing and what do we want to be known for? So, how can we answer those problems? I love to think about even just if you think through if you have the common cold, what's usually the steps that you take to solve for that challenge of having a cold? So maybe it's first discovering if you even have a cold. You go to Google and you search, common cases if you have a cough and headache. Then maybe you find an article about most likely having the flu currently. And I'm realizing that I'm talking about this during a quarantine, so probably not a great example, or maybe it is a good one. Um, but from there, you're trying to consider, okay, I have a few different options here. I could go into the drugstore. It looks like there's some different over-the-counter options, or I could run to a CVS and go to the Minute Clinic, or I could go to my primary care physician. So then we're moving into the decision stage of, exactly which solution am I going to go with. And so what I just did there was I mapped out based off of my buyer persona, if we're trying to target, let's say, someone that has the common cold, we're thinking about how are they going about solving their problem. So I'm going through putting myself in their shoes and thinking about what am I going to research? Where are what we call watering holes at HubSpot? So where am I going to be looking for solutions? Am I going to go straight to Google? Probably if you have a cold, a lot of people end up on like WebMD. So, where are we going to be and how can we create content that goes along with that and showing us as a thought leader?
Well, I know when I have a cold, I think the most important thing for me is to tell everybody how miserable I am and how the world as I know it is completely over because I have the sniffles. So but
Right.
that's just me. But I think to echo what you said, Cubby, there is value in a company having an understanding of what they do and what their customers want. But what you're absolutely right that having that customer mindset and talking and trying to create your marketing as if you were talking to those people is absolutely
Mhm.
crucial. So what we end up finding is that if you lay out the keywords, there's a Venn diagram effect where there is some keywords that aren't applicable to the customer, but there are a lot that are. But it's important to have that mindset of making sure that as you're trying to gain new customers, that you're talking exclusively to them.
Yeah, I think you hit a good point here too. And you mentioned Google's algorithm. It has changed drastically in the past 10 years. So most likely your content strategy needs to change as well if you're looking to actually reach your prospects. So I would recommend, I see here we've got like a Google keyword planner, but also even things like it's an extension that I use. It's called Keywords Everywhere, just a way to see whenever you go into Google, whatever you search, like let's say I searched inbound marketing, it would show me other related search terms just to give me an idea of maybe how I could start creating blog content or other content based off of some of those other common searched key terms.
Oh, awesome! I didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
Oh, but I don't need a blog though, because I mean my news is going to be fine, right? And as I post new things, that's going to be people. I can just leave my website as is, right? I don't need to add anything new, right?
Look, I led right into this one so well.
Oh no!
You
Wait, you mean I
definitely
do have to have a blog?
definitely need a blog if
Okay.
you are looking to follow the inbound methodology. Um, Blogs are pretty crucial and they really help with that. Going back to our keyword or content strategy, if we think about the types of questions, so if we're going back to the common cold and we think about questions that we might be asking, so what are what's most likely going on if I have a cough and a headache? Well, right there, that might not be the exact title, but right there is what something I could write a blog off of. So it's really important that we use those blogs to help answer the questions that our prospects and buyer personas are asking. So we're really using that attracting phase to help engage with our prospects that we're hoping to target.
I think a lot of people don't really have a great appreciation for what a blog is. And yeah, in 10, 12 years ago, a blog was something that was sort of a diary, and somebody would write down what they had for breakfast this morning or what was bothering them today. But really, there's been an evolution of what a blog is, and really, it's used in marketing as more of an umbrella term now that covers a wide variety of external
Mhm.
communications. So it can be things like hiring new people. It can be a new product launch. It can be news about the company. It can be sharing company culture. All of that sort of gets into that blog effect, right, Kelby?
Right. And I would say probably one of the biggest mistakes there with a blog is that marketing teams know that okay, we know we probably need to create one, so let's just write things that we think people would like without actually doing the research, taking a look into whether they're doing a keyword strategy or a content cluster strategy, whatever your content strategy is, that needs to be heavily a part of your blogging strategy. So it really should be planned out instead of thinking, yep, I'm really good at writing on this, I think our customers would like this. There really should be a lot more research into even talking to your sales team. What do our prospects ask you about during the sales process, and looking back at our content strategy and thinking about what can I specifically plan out blogs around this core
What's the
topic.
easiest way to come up with a list of blog topics?
So what I would recommend is thinking about first asking what you want to be known for. That's usually what I ask customers first, is thinking about your business or even thinking about your elevator pitch. You know, what do you most want to be known for? And then start thinking about, based off of those topics around, you know, if I wanted to be known for like if we're thinking about HubSpot, I want to be known for marketing and sales, CRM, and then going from there, if those are our main topics, what are questions that people would ask around those main topics? So I would want to know, well, what exactly is inbound marketing, or what is inbound sales? What is a CRM? How do I pick a CRM? And from there, I'm starting to create blog topics.
Awesome. And what we have on screen here is another great way, is to talk to your sales team and try and figure out what are the frequently asked questions or objections that they get, and speak to that ahead of time. Because in the inbound methodology, especially in this day and age, people are going to be making decisions before they talk to a salesperson. And those objections are going to be bubbling up in their mind, but they're not going to be able to be handled by a salesperson. So now it's falling to marketing to be able to answer those questions even before they're asked in a real way. So,
And it's going to make the sales team a lot happier with you if we're already bringing a lead that's educated. So the salesperson isn't having to educate the lead. They're already a little bit more qualified from reading blogs and other content.
absolutely. Okay. So, uh, now what I've fixed all those 5 things. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create my content. I'm just going to think about what I want to write, and then I'm just going to put it out. Right? I mean, I have to write content and I have to have it out for SEO. So that's what I need to do. So okay, so I should just create it in a vacuum, right?
Well, I think we just hit on this, right?
Yeah.
We can't create content that we think would be a good fit. We need to go back to and actually create who those buyer personas and our ideal customer fit would be.
Okay.
And one thing I want to address here is the difference between those two. So creating a buyer persona would be an individual that you're looking to target. So that would be maybe it's if you're looking to target a marketing manager, or maybe a sales manager, or an IT director, what industry they're a part of, what their company size is, and then creating content based off of that. But then we can also think about our ideal customer profile and creating content around that. And we can also use our ideal customer profile. So that's a business that would be an ideal fit for our product or service. So ones that we want to close. So I would highly recommend that your sales team is utilizing an ideal customer profile. So that way they can help identify, okay, this is a qualified lead. I want to create an opportunity, or I want to move forward with this person because they're a good fit. Or if they don't meet the requirements of an ideal customer profile, then we can send them back to the marketing team and say, hey, this actually wasn't a good fit, or they need additional nurturing.
Okay. All right. But my email list is old, and I haven't really looked at it in about 10 years. But I think, I mean, that's got to be fine, right? I should just be able to add that and start sending out all this content to people,
Nope.
right? I mean, that's fine.
Email, nope.
Oh,
Email
geez.
deliverability is very important. So I think sometimes people don't understand how difficult, if you don't treat email deliverability as important as it should be, it can be very, if you get to a bad place, so you have poor email deliverability, it can be really difficult to fix if you mess that up. A lot of people think, oh, I can even just go join another email service or another CRM. That's a big myth. We have people coming on to HubSpot or even moving to Constant Contact because they have poor email deliverability. That email deliverability follows you around no matter which software system you go to. So I highly recommend whatever system that you're using, making sure that you're identifying those hard and soft bounces. So whether that's through automation, if you are using a system that can automatically pull those email addresses into a list and then actively cleaning and organizing through those. I would also recommend even taking a look at things like, doesn't necessarily seem like this would go with email deliverability, but taking a look at your CRM and removing duplicates. So if your system has a deduplicate tool, make sure that you're utilizing that, going through and making sure that if we have duplicates that can be identified by just a basic misspelling in an email, going ahead and getting that out of our list so we're not sending emails and creating hard bounces.
I think there's another value proposition to be had here when we're talking about scrubbing our data, is that we talked originally about a goals and about creating some SMART goals. So if I'm sending an email out to 100 people and I have a goal that I want 20% of the people to open the email,
Mm-hmm.
well, if 35 of the people on that list have never opened an email, I've never done business with, some of them are bad emails, then my job immediately becomes harder, because now I'm really trying, my realistic goal is almost at a 50% level, because now
Right.
I'm trying to get 20 out of 70 open or 20 out of 65 open, which is immeasurably harder. So making sure that there's a cleanliness to your data, and especially your email, does help in everything. It helps with goals, it helps with alignment with sales, and it's
Yep.
absolutely crucial. It's not a very sexy thing by any means, but the sexiness comes with the success, because the cleaner your data is, the more accurate your ability to define what your real metrics are and actually define what has been successful. So
Right. And many systems will stop you from that email send if you have too many hard bounces.
yeah, that's true too. Okay, all right. So that's all fine and good. I've created great campaigns. Now I'm gonna, every time a lead comes in, I'm gonna send them a catalog, and I'm gonna wait for them to call me, right? And so, I mean, that's okay, right? If I call them once and leave them a message, um, is that enough?
Well, what I'm hearing there is that there hasn't been expectations set. So I love this, all goes back to the goals problem, right? So, and going back to our alignment issue, there should be a service level agreement in place between marketing and sales, or like we have here, creating an alignment document, which will have service level agreements on that document. So, what are our goals there? Where you can clearly define how a sales team should be reaching out to those qualified leads. So whether that's a very clear handoff process, it could be an automated process, it could be a manual process, and then expectations that the sales team will then follow up through email, through calls within 24 hours. So it's really important that we can't just expect our sales team to do exactly what the marketing team thinks. We need to have that alignment document. We need to have those SLAs in place. And then also on that document, share the results and reports from that.
Yeah, and from a sales perspective, I think one of the real values that you get by having this alignment is that when your marketing team is working effectively, what you get from a sales perspective is you get a warmed up lead, and you're able to know, of the wealth of services that you might potentially offer a client, or products you might be able to offer a client, you should be able to tell which ones they're interested in. So you don't have to go through a full pitch. Your pitch should immediately become more specific and more relevant to the person you're talking to. Again, the whole point of inbound is to say the right thing to the right people at the right time. So your salespeople, if they're listening and working with the marketing team, should be able to do that. Now, the converse of that, and the second value that the salespeople get is, yeah, it's sort of a stereotype that sales are always going to complain about the lack of leads,
Hmm.
or lack of good leads or quality of leads, and that's all fine and good. And if you're going to do that, that's fine. But the inevitable follow up to that is what's not good about them. And so if you have a service level agreement in place where the marketing team knows what you're doing and how you're doing it,
Hmm.
then the inevitability of that should be that they should be able to tell what's lacking in the leads that you're working. And you should be able to work
Exactly.
together to be able to tweak that so that the sales team is working on the right leads.
Right. And then ideally, you have less and less leads that you have to hand back to the marketing team. So you're getting more and more qualified leads.
And this is also an important thing for people who are deciding to go into inbound to do, is that if you do have warring factions of marketing and sales who aren't really talking to each other, and one of those groups is not interested in doing inbound, well, that's a larger question of whether or not they're really wanting to be held accountable for the work that they're doing as well, and that should be telling as well. So okay, so that's the 8th mistake. But the 9th mistake is, I'm just going to guess. I'm just going to hope this all works, and at the end of the year, if I got a big giant pile of money, that's going to be enough, right?
Nope. Going back to our problem number one,
Oh geez.
what are your priorities? We have to make sure that we have the reports and analytics set up to measure those priorities. So, and we should also have those sent daily, weekly, monthly, whatever our goals look like. So, depending on what type of system you're using, if you're using HubSpot, creating that dashboard view that you go to every day to be able to measure those analytics. And then also sending those out to the respective teams, that whether it's a management team or the rest of your team that needs to be able to see those analytics and reports. So making sure that they're easily accessible to the rest of the team as well.
And not setting and forgetting things is just an absolutely critical mistake. And there's a number of
Mhm.
really famous examples of this. The one that comes to mind for me is the Adidas had sponsored the Boston Marathon, and anytime somebody crossed the finish line, they would get an automatic email that said, "Hey, congratulations, you survived the Boston Marathon," which in theory should be fairly evergreen. But when there was a terrorist attack that hit the Boston Marathon, getting thousands of emails sent out saying, "Hey, congratulations, you survived," was really disastrous for the company as well.
Mm,
So the good thing about being able to consistently look at the work is you should always be able to make it better. You might set out on a particular path, and you might tweak it 1 degree, 5 degrees, one way or the other. But if your path is growing and being successful because you're measuring it and you're analyzing the success, tweaking it becomes a lot easier in places like social media and places like your website. And to be able
yep.
to get better and get actionable because of the data you're getting is incredibly helpful for marketers on the whole. So I think we just said all that.
Yeah, make sure that you're utilizing A/B testing, which is exactly what you hit
Yeah,
on.
perfect. So what are some marketing goal measurements that marketers can put on? Well, they could have, I want to have X number of new leads for sales. I want to make sure that the spend is data driven. We're using new technology to make our jobs easier. This is the same list that we had on before. But then how do we measure that? Well, if we need more leads for sales, how many? Where are they from? What industry are they in? If we're trying to make our spend more data driven, we're looking at things like click-through rates, conversion rates. If we're trying to make new tech to make jobs easier, we're figuring out how people are utilizing the software that we have. If we're creating launch plans for a new product or a new service, what's the plan? What's the expected return? When can we actually turn around and expect leads from that? Same with efficiencies. And then as we're trying to leverage relationships we have, what do we actually get from those leads? So those relationships, are they sort of like, hey, we can be friends, or is it actually profitable, and are you actually getting anything from it? So other possible measurements that you can look at, things like website traffic, your bounce rate, your email click rate, how many calls to action get clicked on your website, something as simple as how many forms you might get, or even how your keywords have grown. Sometimes you can, if you want to get really good at this, you can have specific call to numbers so that you can measure anybody who's called that particular number, then that's come from a specific marketing campaign. You can also have the number of assets you have out there. I know our marketing team has done great. I think we have well over 24 different assets out in the marketplace right now. And it's really just amazing if you get into the nuts and bolts of everything that they've done. Have you grown your audience? Have you gotten more leads in your target market? Have your keywords actually been fruitful and developed? So Kelby, one of the things you can do is if you ever want to Google purple monkey dinosaur, you'll find a blog that we wrote called Purple Monkey Dinosaur. It's the bell and the purple monkey dinosaur. And it's #1 on Google. And it's #1 on Google for a purpose. It's because nobody actually Google's purple monkey dinosaur. So being #1 on Google isn't as important as the traffic you get from that. And that's one of the things that lower level SEO companies like to do, is they like to create these big giant keyword lists to make you #1, which is cool and great. And you'd think that'd be effective, but not if nobody searches for it. So make sure that's your homework for later, Kelby, is to look up the purple monkey dinosaur.
I'm definitely going to.
Yeah. Okay. So the last mistake that we have listed is not letting our management know what we're going to do. So we're just there. We're just going to go when management passes us in the hall. We're going to say, oh yeah, everything's going good. Everything's going fine. There's consequences to that. And so what are some of the consequences, and what are some of the ways we can avoid not sharing with management what we're doing?
Yeah, so I would say that sometimes people think that this is an obvious one. Well, of course, I'd be sharing things with management, but actually putting those meetings in place. So whether it's through an alignment meeting or a quarterly business review, or if there's a specific goal that you're working on, having a meeting all together every other month to go over the placement of that goal, which again, kind of goes back to having like an alignment meeting. But also what I mentioned in the previous mistake is having those dashboards or reports sent to your management team. So really making the effort to, and making sure that you're sending the right types of reports. So don't just send them all the reports you have. Make sure that you're sending the reports that they directly want to see, so that you're using their time wisely and you're most efficiently getting their eyes on the reporting that, that they are prioritizing too.
All right, awesome. Okay, so when all is said and done,
oh, love this.
We're gonna live happily ever after, right?
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, and we're gonna be able to turn around and do it all again next year. So, okay, so thanks everybody for sticking with us. Today we did talk a little bit about inbound and what it means and how it affects marketers. And then we were lucky enough to have Kelby from HubSpot tell us the top 10 mistakes that her team found and how to avoid doing them. So a couple of things that we're going to give you for listening along with us today. We do have a free template that we will be sending along to you for signing up for this webinar. You'll have a download to create some smart marketing goals.
This is great. I highly recommend using this.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something, if you're looking to start or if you're looking to tweak or get into inbound, it's absolutely a valuable thing to do. In addition to that, we can also going to give you a buyer persona template that you can use, and our beginner guide to inbound marketing. So there's going to be a wealth of resources coming your way after today. So thank you all for participating. Next month, it's going to be back to being just me and finally something more in my wheelhouse, which is Star Trek jokes. We're going to be talking about growth-driven design, the final frontier. We're going to be talking about how you can make your website one of the most crucial parts of your entire business, and talk about how you can iteratively change and get better and better and better so that your website continues paying dividends over and over and over again. That's going to be on Wednesday, July the 8th. If you'd like to sign up for that, we'd love to have you. You can go to BizzyWeb.com/events. Kelby, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise with us. If people are looking to find you or have you come out to them either virtually or in person, hopefully soon, how can they do that?
Yeah, for sure. Add me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people. Shoot me a message on how you're trying to grow your business. But also, if you are looking to join any of our virtual trainings, just from what we talked about today, I think especially if you're trying to get working with inbound, the sales and marketing alignment course is a really good one. I highly recommend bringing someone from your sales and marketing team to that virtual course. You can shoot me an email at kledford@hubspot.com. I'm more than happy to issue a discount for that as well. But we have those running in all different time zones throughout North America, all for the whole month of June, July, August, and throughout.
Awesome. And thank you, everybody, for joining. If you missed anything, there will be a recording of this that we can share with you after the fact. And if you'd like to get a hold of me, who's, at least I'll be a little funny. Not the, yeah, I'm going to say it. I am funnier than you, Kelby. I'm a little bit funnier than Kelby, but
Did you just like mic drop? It sounded like you like
I
dropped
did.
something
I
as soon as
did.
you said
I did.
that.
I did. That was on purpose. So my contact information is there. I'd be more than happy to just help. I'm not really big on hardcore selling, so if there's a way in which BizzyWeb can help you, I'd love to see what we can do to be a service. So thanks everybody for joining us. Kelby, especially thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, and we'll see you next time in July. Bye everybody.
Hi.